I just thought that we just need to flex our power, and that Eddie needs, and everyone else needs to understand these injustices. We're not just going to look the other way. We have a platform to showcase it. There should be discussion from real people, not figureheads. So I'm just going to pass it to the senator, and I'm just going to let it do what it do.
No, I appreciate that, Dame. First off, I just want to thank everybody for jumping on so quickly. I was just having a conversation with Dame. Today's been like a whirlwind. I was having a regular day at home, and I started getting a barrage of phone calls and messages from the media and from my staff that was updating me on a situation that occurred. So I'm not sure if everyone got a chance to see the articles that we sent out, but there's a state representative here in Indiana that has a history of making very racist comments and very racist social media posts, and not apologizing, not changing his ways, not showing any reaction, and actually those, I would say, even his community celebrating the fact that he's doing some of these things. So I made my comments and remarks to the media, kind of laying out, although we're in the midst of this pandemic, and Indiana is 9% of Indiana, Black people are 9% of Indiana's population, and we're probably around 17% of all COVID cases and deaths. He decides to use this as an opportunity to poke fun on our life. Born and raised right here in Gary. Now, the part of the state that he's in, which is a little bit more southern, he serves on the education committee, which is extremely alarming. When you think of someone that is crafting policy and crafting legislation and passing laws, that's impacting our babies. Now, that's just a glimpse of it. Now, why does that matter in Indiana? So when we, and it's a shame most times in the media, this is the only time they really want to hear from Democrats or people of color when situations like this occur. But when we come up and we step out on issues when it comes out education or food deserts or any other subject matter, we don't get any traction on those stories. So I'm sick and tired of these stories of race baiting and using this to cause excitement to drown out the issues or the policies that are not being addressed in the state. So I just want to kind of pull a mind trust together, talk about this. I know the bishop and I talked earlier about it. This is not just in Indiana. I can only imagine in politics in general where this is occurring across the nation, right? I'm not sure where everybody is from. It might be more prevalent in other communities, but when we're starting to see people's true beliefs and intents come out, and they show no concern that it's impacting the lives of people, and that we shouldn't need to care about it, it's crazy. If you read the article, the gentleman said that if you're looking at this and you see this as racist, then pretty much you should be checking yourself. That doesn't make sense, right? So, Dane, you shared your thoughts. Doc, I'd love to hear what your thoughts and perspectives, especially when you have policymakers, lawmakers that's crafting legislation, that have the authority to pass laws that's impacting the lives of so many people and children.
Absolutely. Well, Senator, what's really important to understand is when we talk about leadership, there is an accountability that comes along with that. You got what I'm saying? And
Doc, real quick.
whether you know the whole backstory or not, the bottom line is that there is a level of accountability on behalf of any leader, whether you are leading a political party or you're leading leading a school. At the end of the day, most of us be held to the highest level of accountability if something like that was to ever come out. Now, once again, I'm not here to discuss whether or not he was racist or whatever. The bottom line is that what he did, what he said was racist. And if it was interpreted by anyone as such, a simple remedy to that is to acknowledge it and not to basically act as if there was something wrong with people having feelings about it. You know, I think for quite some time, you know, we've always been asked to marginalize our feelings about race and things like that. But when you are impacting children, when you're impacting kids within, whether it's in Indiana, New York, New Jersey, wherever it is across the country, there's a level of accountability. So having that conversation that we are school leaders, but we're also community leaders as well. So there's some things that we definitely need to bring to the forefront in terms of a conversation without knowing or without actually even caring who the gentleman is. The bottom line is that there is a level of accountability that's necessary when you step in a leadership role. And it shouldn't be anybody to have to remind you of that as often as this man has been reminded.
Hey, Dennis, can I just say one thing? Can I just say one thing? One thing.
John Lucas.
One thing. Can before everyone speaks, can they introduce who they are and what they represent so we're clear who's talking? Because everyone here is very special. And I just want everyone to know who's talking. That's all. I'm sorry. But so Dennis, could you just introduce yourself real quick and then just pass that again?
Absolutely. I'm Dennis Mckeezy. I'm an educator for 26 years. I actually run a group of amazing school leaders in a Zoom conference, in a weekly gathering called Off School Ground. So I have, you know, of experience in education. I've definitely seen quite a bit over my years.
Thank you. So whoever was going to say something after, I just introduce yourself and then, please, whoever wants something to say, please.
I wanted to add something here. Dr. Chris Purnell, a public health and preventive medicine physician and hospital administrator in Newark, New Jersey. You know, the way I think about racism is that racism is system sickness, right? And when I say that, I want to talk about structural or institutional racism as well as this specific incident of explicit bias and racism. Power concedes nothing without a demand. So when a system is perverted or is thwarted and seeks to perpetuate such ideology that we know does damage, right? It causes psychosocial damage. It even contributes to physical damage. The system must be held accountable. And I want to second what you were saying, my brother, about a professional ethics and professional accountability. And wherever we see, let's say, a diversion from that professional ethics or accountability, I think, as you have done, Senator, power has to concede something, so you have to demand something of it. So demanding that he loses his role, right, of the committee that he chairs, or that there is some type of form of censure. And I think that's especially important at a time such as now, when we see across the span of months in this pandemic, hundreds of years of institutional racism and the impact it has on Black and brown bodies, Black and brown lives, and Black and brown
And I'm Dr. Malakandra Small. I'm a principal in East New York. And I certainly want to second what Dr. Purnell said. Though Representative Lucas's statements were prejudicial and discriminatory, racism is a whole different issue. Like Dr. Purnell said, racism is institutional, and he's a representative of the legislative body of the United States of America. And so we got to hold that legislative body accountable. We got to hold his constituents accountable for his actions, because The words that he used and the statements that he made aren't the problem. The mindset that he has, and you couple that with the job that he has as a legislator, putting into law his thoughts and his ideology, that's the key problem. So we have to hold the entire legislative body accountable, because it's that body and it's that institution that's racist.
Right.
Bishop Purnell, CEO of Episcopus Worldwide Ministries, Bet Hashem Yahweh. I do many things, but what's key to me is this.
Wow.
To me, that says it all. As a black man, I take offense to that. As an educated black man, I'm propelled to put an end to this. I'm a veteran. I wear my dog tags every day, you know. But my father raised me to be a very proud American. But I will not allow a racist to out-American me. I don't believe you can be an American and be racist. I go deeper than that. I don't believe you can be Christ-like and be a racist. I don't believe any racist is in heaven. I believe all races go to hell. And I believe that not only do we have to hold him accountable, not only do we have to hold the government accountable, because the government is supposed to represent all of us. And it goes back to what is the definition of an American. I define American as someone who is free. I define American as someone who has the freedom of choice. Freedom to choose whatever religion I want to be in, freedom to choose wherever I want to live. Anything that approaches that freedom, don't tread on me. And this guy is obviously treading on us, and he is using this as a sound whistle. This right here says it all. When you show me this, and then you speak to me as if I don't have a mind for myself, and you tell me that isn't racist, now you're insulting my intelligence, let alone my spiritual being. So the thing is, for someone to be that bold, there must be a bold response. There must be a bold response. And the bold response is, we need to call these people what they are, amoral. It's time to take the high ground. Take the high ground. Time to wrap yourself up in the red, white, and blue and tell that person, you are not an American. Because you cannot be an American and hate on me. You cannot be an American and tread on me. And you cannot be an American supporting racist Nazi laws. For this man to be in charge of education or to oversee parts of education, that's an insult. How many times have we had racist people in charge of education when it comes to our children? It's time to put that to an end. And I was just reading an article even last year about him putting up nooses. I mean, we all know what a noose means. He knows what a noose means. So he's saying these dog whistles. He's doing it in the face, and he's doing it to get votes. He's doing it to get votes, and we need to call that out. We need to call that out, and coming together as one body, as one mouthpiece, we can do this, and we can win this battle. Because once again, it's also
Nicolette. Take me off mute.
No form of decency. And even
take me off mute.
His record, I'm not afraid to say it. He's proud to be a Marine. I say he's not an American soldier. How can he be American a soldier and say that he's going to fight for all Americans by putting Americans down? And so many Americans who have fought in every war this nation has ever had. This is something you call to the forefront. And I think I'm very much in the believe somebody's track record. I believe his track record clearly says what his motives is. The difference is that he's proud about it. So if the emperor is proud and walking around with no clothes, then we can't blind our eyes and say you do have clothes. We got to stand our ground, but we got to take the high ground.
I have a question for a principal.
Appreciate that, Bishop.
For one of the principals. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. I just had a question, but go ahead. So you have to say.
Well, I wanted to add some additional context, especially when we say hold them accountable. To every single black person or every single person in the state of Indiana, that they condone this type of behavior. So I just wanted to add some additional context to folks. I'm interested in hearing you guys' thoughts. Good evening, everyone. We gained more national notoriety when Oprah and Ellen DeGeneres came to the school for the Lights On program that we had here, where we provided a safe place for kids from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Friday nights and Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays throughout the summer. I just want to talk about it from a different standpoint. I see a lot of my babies in the school, especially my black queens, my girls, they don't have a sense of self-worth. And I've been wrapping my arms around my black boys because I'm a black man and I relate, but it's been so much that I just see my black girls just going through so much. And for this man to take a picture that, you know, we laughed at when we seen it because it was always some good context with it, but for him to turn it around, like almost take something that we all felt in the culture that meme was something for us to turn it against us. I think we need to, not only can we do the fighting, we gotta show our kids how to fight and know their self-worth. It's a lot of, you know, we've been giving kids fish and not teaching them how to fish. So I just want to make sure that whatever we come up with today, like we gotta make sure that we are turnkeying it to the babies, because when we can't fight, they're gonna be the next generation, and they gotta stop these oppressive type idealistic things that they're doing. So I just want to just add that context. Like, it can't just be with us. We definitely got to turn kid all the way down to the middle schools, because I'm fighting a good fight. But if that kid behind me don't know their self-worth and they think this is a game, then it's going to keep going on. And I know James always talk about, you know, being entrepreneurs and the black dollar. We have so much power. Like, if we can just come together and we can show them, they wouldn't dare talk about us that way, because they get everything from us, our swag, all of that. And it's like, I'm tired of taking the back seat when I know they stealing from my culture. So I just wanted to say that much. And yeah, that's it. Thank you, brother.
So again, just in terms of the whole accountability piece, I think when we look at any issue, it's always important that we have context and that we look at the issue kind of not just from the political standpoint, but the economic and cultural standpoint, right? And not just look at the individual who made the statements. Look at the individual, look at his ideology, but furthermore, look at those who support him. Go even further, look at legislator that he's involved with and that he supports or has written, and examine that. Look at those donors that support him, corporate and private, and hold them all accountable and pull a roll off of all of them, because he doesn't stand alone. Whatever he expressed is an expression of both his constituents, his donors and his supporters, as well as those who support him in legislature. So you got to kind of do an analysis of all of those and hold each of those parties accountable in a way that shakes it up and makes him uncomfortable as a legislator.
You know what? Thank you. That right there, I knew about the colleague part. I knew about the supporter part, but I wasn't thinking about the donor part.
Right.
That stood out to me. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Because just to add to what's being said, when I talk about racism being a system sickness, you got to go to where the economics are attached to it, right? Because economics holds power. And what we've seen in recent history in our culture is the power of Black voice to shame donors, right? And that is part of a tactic and a strategy to say, this is what your money is supporting or propping up, and then to take people to task, right? So when systems don't deliver appropriate outcomes, you have to take that system to task. Sometimes you need to deconstruct that system. Sometimes it's right-sizing that system, or sometimes, you know, it's taking those who were the architects of that system to task. And I think it is imperative, again, going back to power concedes nothing without a demand, go to the economic power. We're talking about the political power. We're talking about constituency power. We're talking about collective Black power. So shame donors who prop up and support candidates and persons who perpetuate ideology through action, because he's a political actor. So he has action connected to his ideology.
You know, hi. I don't know if you can hear me. Hi, how you doing? You know, I took a class 2 semesters ago on Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and this directly when someone just spoke about looking at donors, it made me think about the Southern Christian Liberty what was the name of the
Southern
Christian Leadership Conference.
in
Also, can you
1966,
introduce yourself when you get a
they did the
chance?
bread fast. It was a bread company, and what they did, they stopped buying the bread. And so what I'm thinking is, from a social action piece, that is something from the ground that I think kids from 4th grade and up could do, is to have a letter writing campaign. And you could let us know the address, and that would be a great way of teaching our students. Because one of the things is the racial battle fatigue. I didn't have a teacher that looked like me until I went to Hampton in Virginia. So to think I was in school in Queens and Brooklyn and New York City, and for 13 years of my life, I never had a single teacher who looked like me. So then to think we're all in our house in quarantine, and to see an image like this posted, you can't help but be, inundated by constant imagery. And when you think of like Land O'Lakes taking off the Native American woman off the box, right? You think of all these things, that the power of imagery and how much money is put in advertising. To have something like that, I think a next step, we definitely, when looking at donors and looking to see who has funded bills with this person, we can think about having a letter writing campaign that not only from that particular area, but serving as a social action piece for some of our own students to think, well, what do you think about this? What can we do? And I think having a letter writing campaign and letting us know who are the people to do that, I think that would be one next step that would be in step to what we've done in our past when we've seen some social injustice, and the power of the economic piece and what we bring to the table.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Hi, my name's Anisha Jacko. I am the principal of the pre-K centers in Manhattan in District 2. I'm a mom of 2 boys. I live in Queens, and this is my 20th year in the system.
Okay, now I just wanted to say something. And from my perspective, I'm offended, right? And the way I get at people is I embarrass them. And I want to be relatable, right? So a politician will be offended by this because they're paying attention to this. A principal, once they're made aware of it, will understand the ramifications socially to the kids and how terrible this is. But I just think that this is an opportunity to make it relatable to regular people, turn him into entertainment, use our power to intellectually embarrass him so that the people that aren't paying attention pay attention. I just feel like turn him into entertainment, because he's a clown for saying that. He's a clown for thinking that we're all right with it and thinking that we don't know that he's playing to his consumer. Now, he was intentional. That was an intent. That was sending a message to his people that he's with his people. The ones that want to oppress us, the ones that laugh at us, and that he's like, yo, I could be so flagrant, I could say this, I could act like I'm stupid, and I can act like I think they're stupid. But they know I'm not stupid. I know they're not stupid. I'm just being brazen. Humiliate him. Turn him into a joke. Turn him into a meme. Let's make content about these kind of people. Let these kind of people know that if they do this, we are going to laugh at you. We're not going to be sad about it. I'm not sad. I'm mad. If I was in front of him, I would destroy him mentally and ask him, I'll give him a fair one, but I would rather talk to him intellectually, because I'll destroy him there too. And that's what we should do. Make them our joke. Let's get power from when they try to make us weak. Turn this negative into a positive. He just made it easy. And we have a platform to do it. Let's make it cool to laugh at that's laughing at us. That's what we need to do.
But the real power.
Hi, my name is Dr. Anissa Riley. I'm a principal in the South Bronx, and I've been the principal for the last 14 years. So I just want to say 2 things. The first one is to kind of extend what has already been said about leadership and what your responsibility is as a leader. And I am very ashamed to be in the same lane of leadership as that word is with this individual. Because as a leader, you know what you are supposed to say and what you're not supposed to say, because you have a moral responsibility for those that you are leading and those that are following you. And there are things that I know that I'm not supposed to say because it would not bring a successful way of living to those who I have been blessed to lead. And so leadership is an honor and a privilege. So for him to, let's say for a moment he didn't think it was racist, but you know the climate of the world today, as a white man using a picture of a black baby in the way that you have done it can be perceived. And part of leadership is understanding perception and being very clear about you controlling the narrative as a leader. So what he attempted to do was to alter a narrative to fit a lifestyle, as you heard Dame say. The second thing that I want to talk about and to add to the conversation is by Courageous Conversations by Glenn Singleton. And in that book, or in that way of talking about race, he brings in the Courageous Conversation compass. And in that compass, there are 4 parts that he talks about where people come to race. They come in it from a moral perspective, an intellectual perspective, a social or an emotional perspective. So once you can identify where the individual is in the conversation when it's about race, then you are more equipped to engage them in a conversation to get at that point. So right now, what he is doing is a moral disservice. And so, Senator Melton, when you have these conversations, you need to be very clear about the leaders or the donors or whoever, where they are on the compass. Are they looking at this from an intellectual perspective? Are they coming at this from a moral perspective, a social perspective, or an emotional perspective? And once you are clearly able to identify that, then you can go in for lack of a better phrasing, the kill, and appeal to what needs to happen. Because this Senator Lucas is playing all 4 areas of the compass. It was an intellectual move because he has all of the intellects all riled up and saying, you know exactly what you did. It was emotional. So for those who weren't intellectual are now feeling some type of angst, anger, sadness. So their emotions are riled up. And it was a social move for his constituents. And it was moral move because he really let everyone know where he is. And he has used it as a distraction. So people are now focused on what he has said and what he has done, and has taken the focus off of what is happening right now, which is the pandemic, which is the fact that our disenfranchised children, black and brown babies, are not getting the attention that they need. He's used it as a distraction so that we are not able to make sure that the digital divide is closed, so our children are able to access education in this time. He's used it as a distraction so that way when you are on the floor to advocate for your constituencies, which are probably more black and brown, you're not focused on getting what your community needs, but now wanting to go after this individual and spending a lot of your energy on this individual. And so you've gotten tripped up by the distraction. Now, one thing I do know about distractions is that whenever you have momentum and you are doing well and you are gaining ground and you are getting success, the enemy brings a distraction.
Yes.
That's the way it works. The enemy brings a distraction. Yes. So it gets your eye off of the success that you've been gaining. It gets your eye off of the ground that you've been gaining. So what I say to you, or my advice to you, is, in addition to everything that I also said, what successes have you started garnering in this time? What leadership situations have you been placed in that has starting to get you an opportunity to get people's ears and get you into rooms that no other person has gotten into, and now this has popped up? So be very clear about why is this coming when it's coming, And what is it actually doing? And is it going to add to what you've already been moving forward with? Because if not, then it is exactly doing what the enemy designed it to do, to be a distraction, to get you off kilter, to get your eye off of what you've already been moving forward. So yes, he needs to be addressed, but how much does he need to be addressed? And will it stop you from doing all that you've already been doing and the success you've been gaining?
So may I quickly piggyback really quickly off of Dr. Riley? I swear you my sister from another mister. Good to see you, everybody here. Yeah, Senator Melton, thank you. And Dame, of course. Dame! Thank you for also providing this forum. My name is Simone A. My ministry in general is serving. I have the honor of serving 3K through 8th grade school in one of the boroughs. This is I'm ending my 24th year of being in education. I am the proud mother of 3 male children within a blended family. And I was just listening to some of the statistics that you mentioned. You said that in Indiana, there's 9% of the population, 17% of the COVID deaths. And Dr. Riley is absolutely in my head because this is really a distraction. So I guess in my listening, I'm always thinking about what's the recovery, the retention, and the resiliency plan for my Black boys, because that's how I think. I was a single mother for 12 years prior to meeting and becoming a wife, woo-woo. And since then, I'm consistently thinking, for the past 400 years, this continual pandemic of psychological, what I call, it's almost like we've been led out to pasture, but it's a psychological trauma specifically for Black males because you guys have been ripped apart from family, from self, from identity, from education. And what has seemed to be exacerbated is that, the laziness, the non-educated, the lack of consistency, the not wanting to be with family and only thinking about free handouts. And so having another visualization for this, because we're dealing with multiple levels of trauma, I'm thinking about the additional layer of trauma that this is happening for children who are as young as 3 and 4 years old. So the psyche is absolutely paying attention to what's going on with it from the moment when a baby touches the mother's skin from birth. The psyche is also not fully developed by that particular time. But when you're thinking about the male psyche, to which I can't fully empathize, but I do sympathize, I just think about just how this type of disparagement humor, which is pretty much, the attempt to really amuse and poke jokes, racist jokes, to the denigration of one particular social group. And Dr. Pinella already mentioned it because it's talking about explicit, and to some points it is also implicit bias. Because I quickly looked through some of the articles that have been put out all day. It's just a joke. One race is the human race. Anybody that says one race is the human race is already not acknowledging how difference of cultures and how we're supposed to be celebrated and respected from that. So trying to gloss over it, that is not something that's new. Bishop Purnell talked about himself as an American, as a human, and I'm going to mention another bishop because it's one of the something that absolutely caught my spirit 7 years ago. Bishop T.D. Jakes said, the average white American can get a PhD and not understand my culture, but I can't even get a GED without understanding theirs. So I'm thinking about multiple levels of, how this falls. So there has always been this fantasy of sexist and hyperactive of Simeonization, and how even from the 15th and 16th century, there were a lot of European novelists that talked about, the white damsel in distress, coming from Paris, going to pillage and forage and explore in Africa. And then, multiple stories of her getting raped by apes. And that's how we came as a people. But basically, we have all of that data that already exists. But I'm open to being on a focus group or a support group because I'm really thinking about the effect that this is having on the multiple levels of trauma that the young Black boys are experiencing. So my sons who are in their 20s have been spoken to, have their dad. We talk to them about identity, culture, survival, celebration. But right now, everybody doesn't necessarily own the tools in order to know how to have those conversations. So what are the next steps that we're doing as far as the resilience recovery for our young Black males? How does that translate as they get older for when they're in the middle school grades? What does that mean for when they're getting ready to become voting citizens at 18, and how they're going to take the power of that? And then again, to touch the money aspect of it, because I believe too always hit them in the pocket. What are the big corporations that are based in Indiana? And right now, everybody, in order to function, has to have something written into its corporate policy in order to support areas of that are economically depressed, as well as talk about how they're celebrating various cultures within where they are. So I would absolutely reach out to those corporate entities, the ones that are on the stock trading floors, the ones who already are getting various dollars, no matter what color the person is that they're doing, and see how they're going to be supportive of this resilience part of the education piece. And then I would invite homeboy, because, Dame said he won't come see him. I'm loving you out, homie. I got you. So we have to invite him, because honestly, who's in his ear? Because he ain't so smart that he came up with this on his own. So I'm curious to know who really is impressing and impressionable as far as how he's coming up with his ideas. I know that myself and my husband, Barack and Michelle, even, the clown that's in the White House right now and his wife. There is somebody who is impressionable on this particular person, and having those people in the conversation to kind of like instruct all of the racist tactics and go back to 600 and 700 years and what that translates to, because that's one separate conversation. Yeah. But the piece that I know that I have a degree in is kids. So as far as the kids, what does this mean? Because yes, for right now, you said he's the... he serves on the education committee, or is he the head of the education?
He serves on the education committee.
Right. So I'm going to the head of the education committee, because I'm curious to know, sister, as somebody from Brooklyn, I'm not having it. So let's discuss what we're going to do next.
Simone, you're making me think about, I wonder how many kids in high school and middle school were suspended for doing things inappropriate online. I would match those reports. I would match
let's say we did that. Let's say I tweeted it right now.
Right. They would get in trouble. Yeah, they would be suspended. They will be suspended.
Right.
So let's get that data.
Right.
Let's find out how many students were either bullied, stayed home for school, had to have counseling because they had inappropriate online behavior. Because that's what this is.
And how many of them Black and white, and how that in the 9% of the population and 17% of the COVID deaths, and on top of that, trying to deal with trauma and layers of trauma upon trauma. Who's micromanaging these babies to know that they're getting acceptable, rigorous learning that's moving them into, their next chapter? Somebody's talking. I'm sorry.
A Black man fights back in America. He's emotionally unstable.
Yes.
A Black man is not allowed to fight back, even when we know that racism is a mental illness, and people don't like to deal with racism from a mental illness position. But Trayvon Martin was not a distraction. Emmett Till was not a distraction. I think I take offense when, in defending myself as a man, in defending my community, I'm seen as emotional. But what we have to understand is that it is illegal for a Black man in America to be a man. It is illegal for a Black man to stand up and say this is wrong. It's deeper than this. Adolf Hitler didn't invent racism. He just rode the wave. He rode the wave under the democracy. He knew what was underlying the people. What brought in the racism is the Christianity. What brought in the racism was Martin Luther. Martin Luther was very anti-Semitic. And what we have to understand is that Jim Lucas, I guarantee you,
It's going to happen like this
I guarantee you his religion supports him. I guarantee you his community supports him. So he's not doing this for distraction. He's doing this because he knows that there is a whole base that supports him.
See, let me be clear about the distraction comment, because I think it needs to be clarified.
I haven't finished.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've never been to jail before, but I have been accused over 5 times of stealing my own car. I have had police officers pull out their gun, tell me that they're going to kill me because they thought I stole my car. So when I saw the movie Boys in the Hood, it was a very dramatic event because I lived it. And see, when you're dealing with another white counterpart who has never experienced the police in that area, this is completely foreign to them. I worked in corporate America. I was assistant manager in corporate America for over 20 years. I was usually the only black male in corporate America. But I was never allowed to take a stand. In my field, what I had to do, I had to open up a whole bunch of books and say a white person wrote this. But I think I am not going to take the blame for coming up against a racist who knows what they're doing, because they are constantly saying the same narrative. And the same narrative is these people can't think, we can talk about them, they're going to do nothing about it, and most of all, they are not going to fight back. Senator Eddie, you have to be different. You have to be different.
I'd like to for a second, Bishop, I don't want to cut you off, but my name is Les Elliott. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a G. I'm a lion. And let me just say this to y'all. What y'all doing is great. But what we've got here, we've got a pragmatic approach to handling racism. Because I believe as a black community, we tried hard, but we have failed to protect our sons and daughters. We finally get a chance now to put some intelligent people in the line to take care of us. Because what he did was he tried to attack our emotional sensibility. Yeah, that's cool. But now what I've heard from all of these doctors was a pragmatic way that we could get in there and smack him on his ass. They said, we're going to hit him in the pockets. We're going to hit his constituency. We're going to hit the chairman of his board. We're going to hit him in all different ways. So I believe that this pragmatic approach, we can draw the line here now with Dame saying, yeah, we clown him. We use all of our forces. Because listen, I read up on Nicole Hannah-Jones and people like that have talked about 400 years of the 1619 Project and all that stuff. And I really, I believe it's great. I think that it's important. The one thing I think we were missing in all of these years, and listen, I'm the first one to say, I'm a street dude. I'm not a principal. I honor y'all. Y'all beautiful people. But let me just say this. I got common sense. And what it's telling me is we haven't taken a pragmatic approach to attacking racism. Hit them in their pockets, hit them in their minds. Don't get on your knees. No disrespect to everybody kneeling. Fuck that. You know what I'm saying? Excuse my language. Use that pragmatic approach. Hit them in the pockets. And with educated people like y'all, that's going to really attack the system in the way that needs to be attacked. Use it and roll it against them.
Can I interject something? I would like to weave together several things that people are saying. Racism is multidimensional, right? So when I talk about racism and I say racism is a system sickness, meaning that racism can be perpetuated or can be made evident or can exhibit its characteristics through a person, through a law, through a process, or through a norm. And it's impossible for us as a community, it is impossible for us as a nation to tear down the racist structures without having a collective approach. And when we have a collective approach, it's drawing upon what everybody has said. Racism is a virus, okay? Meaning it infects. If you look at this like a public health issue, if you look at it like the pandemic that we're in, you have the power of storytelling. Use the pandemic, right? And talk about racism as a pandemic that has been happening across hundreds of years. And then talk about the need to interrupt that vicious cycle and talk about the need for accountability and then lay out how you're going to go after it. You lay out the economic argument. You lay out the economic argument, meaning going after donors. Lay out the political argument, meaning holding the chairperson to task or censuring this this particular state representative. You also lay out the cultural argument. What we did learn from the civil rights movement, the architects of that movement, they knew a moment. They knew how to seize a moment, and they knew how to own a moment. Racism happens every day, but sometimes it needs to be documented and, yes, confronted. It needs to be confronted because it is white male privilege which allows you to ignore. As a Black woman, as a Black physician, as a Black hospital administrator, I do not have the privilege to ignore because there are vulnerable communities, vulnerable populations behind me that I represent. So I must think in this moment, what power can I wield and how do I wield it? And I think that's what we always have to do, right? We can never just look for one attack. Right? And if you think about the virus that we're dealing with now, there are a multiplicity of efforts to either create a vaccine or a multiplicity of efforts to create treatments. We can treat this system. Sometimes you got to manhandle the system, right? And wrestle it down. You have to show the force of your collective power. And that collective power can come through art. That collective power definitely can come through cultural norms. So yes, you can kneel, and yes, you can have a pen. Yes, you can go after a pocketbook, and yes, you can have a voice. And we have to be intellectually, emotionally, socially, and politically savvy to say, I'm going to do all of the above. And that one person has to do everything, but a collective can. There's a power in a fist, right? There's a collective there. One person can represent a finger, but collectively we can pack a powerful punch.
Part of the multi-facetedness of racism is that racism actually is a tool. It was a tool that was invented to serve as a deflection from what's really going on. So not only was this I don't even want to use his name, this degenerate who's masquerading as a legislator, not only did he use his words to harm our people, but he's also insulting the intelligence of his own constituents. Because if you look at the full statements, he was referencing the government relief checks. And let me tell them, just do the mathematics, right? Do the mathematics. We benefit less from relief checks than his constituents. Right. And so, again, he's using race as a tool to deflect from what's really going on. He represents a 1%, and he represents that 1%. His job is to stand at the vanguard to protect their interests. And he uses his constituents who are not part of that 1%. He uses race to keep them as confused as he uses race to look to be detrimental to us as a people. So I think we really got to look at it from many different angles and pull the wool off of what he's doing to his own constituents, right? Because he's insulting their intelligence. Because at the end of the day, it isn't just about race, but it is about economics. And you can't look at one without looking at the other.
Right. I want to go to Dr. Riley. I know you had a comment. If you wanted to...
just to clear up the distraction piece. So I think people got stuck on the word distraction and took it out of context. So when I brought in the word distraction, it wasn't about what he said or what he did to be used as a distraction. It was to say it to you, Senator Melton. Is this becoming a distraction from pulling you away from some of the successes or ground or momentum that you've already gained? Because I'm sure that you are getting into rooms, getting people's ears, having conversations that are moving the needle in your district, that we don't want this right now to become now your focus now solely becomes on addressing this individual. Am I saying this individual needs to be addressed? Yes. Am I saying that we need to do something to address this individual? Yes. But not at the detriment of what successes or ground you've already gained during this time. Because if we look at what Monique Morris talks about in her book Push Out, which talks about the criminalization of Black girls, which Akbar was talking about, there are many Black and brown babies who need your voice because you are in a position of power to assist, especially now. So these two roles are juxtaposed together, addressing this moral issue That's why I brought in the Courageous Conversation Compass, so that way we can locate whether it's intellectual, social, emotional, or moral, to equip you to be even stronger with your voice on the floor when you talk to the various stakeholders, juxtaposed to the fact that you still have this power to push the envelope and move the needle and make changes in legislation and hold people accountable, so our Black and brown babies are getting exactly what they need, and we can reduce these inequities. Because when you read the criminalization of Black girls push out, it talks about the fact that Black girls are really invisible in the educational system. You may think it's Black boys, but it really isn't. It's the Black girls, because we are the ones who learn how to be quiet in the room to get the education. The minute that we voice our opinion or we come against the teacher, we are considered revolutionary or just be quiet. And so we learn quickly how to be quiet in order to get that piece of paper. And so you get pushed out. That's why the book is called Pushed Out. So because you have this opportunity to continue to hold people accountable and have conversations, and you have ears of people, be careful that this doesn't pull you away so much so that you lose what you already gained. That's why the word distraction was used, and that's to give it more context, more meaning, and judging by the way in which you're smiling and you're reacting, I think it kind of is touching base, because that's what the enemy does. That's what the enemy does. The enemy will do that to anybody. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a race, a baiting piece. It could be anything. The minute that you start to become successful and you gain ground, something comes to distract you.
And you know what? Let me jump in there, Senator Melton. You know, this is Dennis Mckeezy again, and I wanted to make sure that we address something from a more global perspective. That, you know, when we see memes like this, unfortunately, you know, many of us as people of color find it entertaining, we find it funny, and we just keep passing it along as well. So it's important that we all speak up and we talk about this meme is for all people. And we can't continue to just play games with people, because what happens is when we do it, people think it's okay for them to do it to us. So they're not part of the crew. They're not part of this crew of people who understand that this is offensive. So what we have to do is we got to be offended when these type of memes get spread amongst our social media platforms as well. Be able to call it out for what it is. Because what we are doing is we're giving them the option and giving them the opportunity to believe, because we thought it was cool, now they think it's cool. They've been jacking the swag for quite some time. So you got to understand, everything that we think is cool, they think is cool. So we got to make sure that they understand and our people understand ain't nothing cool about that. And we got to dead this whole conversation about why we think that was funny altogether. That's not the first time I've seen a meme of that nature. And I think we all got to shut it down and make sure that we understand that.
And, you know, just to build on that, just looking up looking up the notes about him, his term is up in November. He owns an awning company and he is in the Marines. So these are clear three things. What does voting look like? If his term is up in November, what's that looking like? Do we, you know, my legislative here in Queens, we're making sure that people have ballots. Are they going to the polls? What does that look like? So I think it's also a time to galvanize as well, Senator.
I just wanted to add something to that. I totally, Dr. Riley, I totally understood how you use the word distraction, but I believe there is power in language. And what I would say to you, Senator Melton, is where we need to grow in our movement is to be able how to do multiple things at once, right? How to silence perversions of the system and without it consuming us or without it throwing us off. In my position of leadership, I cannot afford to ignore when a system that has power has control, has agency over vulnerable populations, and children here are the vulnerable population, right? Has agency over vulnerable populations and not devise a response. And sometimes that response may come differently from me. Dr. Chris might say it one way, but Dr. Chris has access to a collective. And Dr. Chris says, let's mobilize this voice to hold this person accountable on this level. Let's mobilize that voice to hold this person accountable on that level. And you don't have to do everything yourself. What we can learn is our collective strength. What we can learn is our collective power. And what we can learn is our collective creativity. What we see people doing in this very pandemic. And I was talking about it today as we clapped a patient out of the hospital. The next multi-billionaires and the next billionaires are going to create something that's going to grow out of this need of a crisis, right? Out of the need of a crisis. So whenever a crisis presents itself to you, there's also currency on the other side of that crisis. And you got to know how to use that currency. You got to know how to use that social capital. You got to know how to use the power in your networks. Right, and that's all I'm impressing upon you, and that's all I think we as a people. And to go to you, Principal Akbar, much respect to you and all that you're doing in Newark. I'm here in Newark too. We must instruct our babies. This must be an intergenerational response. But if you think about any movement that's happened across history, it has never been absent of children. It has never been absent of youth. It has never been absent of the younger generations because they thought they had less to lose. Adults sometimes become too politic and too polite, right? Because we have jobs, we have titles, we have expertise, we have learning. We have dogmas, we have schematics, we have mental models. And so that's why, as Dane is saying, we got to have access to all of those different levers. I'm not going to retweet a meme. I can't. I'm a hospital administrator, but I'm not going to stop you from doing whatever you feel you need to do is the tool. I'm going to go after what I know my agency affords me to do.
Real quick. I just want to say something. First of all, each and every person that's speaking, if you guys were rappers, I would buy your records. I'm very proud when I hear a collective of people that are so intelligent, because I'm not used to being around so many people in one room that are so intelligent. I've been around guys with guns and money, and they talk a lot of shit, and I haven't felt this powerful ever. And the play-by-play and everything that I've heard, it's making me love. It's making me love my culture. It's making me love y'all for being so smart. But it's also making me hate. It's making me want to fight. And based on what you're saying, I want to do some action. I want some action. I want to hit that dude, but I want to hit him right. And we've discussed how we feel. We've discussed the psychology of the people that are trying to oppress us. But I want to discuss, how do we hit them? The other day, we were on a Zoom, we spoke about a movie, and you gave me notes that were very specific about how to make what I'm doing better. I want some notes. We know how they feel. We know what they're doing. How do we collectively put together a plan about action? Talking. I want to hit somebody, but I want to hit them right. There's no way we can hit them wrong with this amount of intelligent people. Let's not talk about what they're doing to us. How do we talk about what we're going to do to them? I want to hit them, but I want to hit them right. How as principals do we teach our kids to be empowered by them showcasing their weakness, not to be hurt by it, by to make it like, yo, you showed your hand, I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm not a sucker. I'm not a victim. I hit back, but I hit back right. And with this amount of intelligent people that are making me feel love, I need to know how to protect it. And you guys are the coolest people because y'all can articulate and y'all can actually make things happen. I want to showcase this, but I need a plan on how to hit back. I want to be aggressive. I don't want to be reactive. I want to hit them hard. How do we become offensive instead of defensive? We shouldn't have to get punched to hit back.
Next question, Senator Melton, because it sounds like that perhaps maybe if you haven't done so already with regards to the people that support you, like what kind of task force are you seeking to create?
No, wait, hold on 1 second. I need my question answered. I want to know, I don't want to ask about this no more. I want to know how we need to put together a plan, not discuss what he should be doing. What should we be doing right now? What can we do tomorrow? I want to hit him now.
I got you. I think it's a start for where Anisha started one particular next step, action step, which is a grassroots beginning where we start with our fourth graders on up and having a letter writing campaign to the senator, state of Indiana, so that, I mean, there's a couple of states represented now in this Zoom room that can assist with that. And I think that then letter writing campaign should, once it gets there and is read and it is shared with the media, to have a response. And then I'm willing, and I know Simone said something about what she was willing to be a part of, but to have a press conference, a panel where we are speaking the same truth that we're having in this Zoom room and talk about what holding leaders accountable and making sure that leaders understand the position that they have and what that does when we talk about education, because education is the fabric which our babies hold on to in order to be successful in life. And so when you have leaders who advocate their responsibility, are intentional in their moves, then the leaders in education need to be just as intentional in their response and in their moves to make sure that students are clear. Because one of the things we do in education is equip our students with the ability to think, right? And so you do that by giving them both sides of the argument and having them judge it. So for instance, Columbus, we were taught for so long that he discovered America. You understand the word discover and you know the meaning of discover. Did he truly discover America?
He encountered it. He encountered it.
Right. So he didn't discover America, and then you get that through education once you understand. So my reason for suggesting the move after the letter writing campaign is to now for these educators to sit at the table and they can hear the voices. Because Dane, you said it one time, you said it when another meeting that we had, there's much swagger from us principals. You wouldn't even believe that we were principals, right? Because of the swagger in the room. And so when students are able to connect emotionally, like I said in those courageous conversations, when students are able to connect emotionally, then they start believing in you as an educator. Then you can hit their intellectual piece, and then you got them on the social level. So because we all bring that into the room, we can assist you with that. And I'm willing to assist Senator Melton with assisting you with putting the pressure in that space with individuals who understand what this means educationally, because education is a hot topic in the nation right now.
And that's under the educational task force. So again, there's nothing wrong with calling it a task force, because right now the guys that were all under this is because it was a cry coming from Senator Melton. So within the task force, what I'm hearing is that it's really divided into 4 different pieces. Education, that's what I do. That's what I know that I can speak to. You know, Anisha talked about various activities that can happen. One of them is a letter writing campaign. What kind of curriculum is going to be developed that's rooted also within social emotional learning? That's another part of the task force. Whether it can be separate from education, I would say no, but that's an SEL part, you know, mental health task force. The economic task force, Anisha put in the notes as far as the companies that the representative owns. We also have, we also talked about the major companies that are in Indiana, reaching out to them as far as what are they going to contribute to the task force in regards to healing specifically for people in Indiana, because this is not just a black boy thing. This is everybody is seeing what the representative has done thing. So we have education, the social emotional learning, the economic, and of course, this is where you fall in your expertise, Senator Melton, begin policy and law. This is always tied to federal dollars. What specifically is the policy regarding X? And how have we been abiding to the policy regarding Y? How is that related to, I don't know what the rules are as far as when you are representative in office, that means that you are paid by federal dollars. That means you represent a constituency. And the moment you give the appearance that you are preferring one constituency versus another, that creates divide. So that's a way in, because Anisha also put in the notes that and mentioned that he's up for re-election. So aside, let's just even say he gets re-elected. There's going to be so much other pressure that's going on around him that is going to put him into a position of conformity. Because again, it's the same thing that happened in Florida. Those people were running loose, running wild, that they did nothing wrong when this man, the same age as one of my kids, was just outside jogging. And it was because of social media pressure that these people got arrested. So now what we're doing is putting pressure in these 4 different areas to which he may have people that are around him that are in his ear, so that if you're the person that's the head of the task force, Senator Melton, what you're doing is you're bringing the experts of the minds in these particular areas in order to incite the pressure, while at the same time produce the education, while at the same time produce the healing for everybody that's been affected by what this one meme happened for your community.
Right.
Listen, to answer your question, Dame, I think you got to hit them below the belt. You got to hit them in the pockets. At the end of the day, a politician's job is to represent interests, and it's to represent the interests of those with economic means, those who were able to put him into office, and those who will continue to put him and those who represent that ideology and those interests into office. So I say we hit them below the belt, hit them in the pockets. Money talks, bullshit walks. What interests is he supporting?
Yeah, well,
To you, those interests are economic interests, and so if you hold those parties accountable and you put them on Front Street, then you'll get action.
Dr. Small, so I'm looking on his website. There's 3 bills that he has spoken about: HB 1254, HC 15, HB 1028, and he's an advocate for giving teachers firearm training. So I think it's very clear. I'm looking at HB 1028 in February.
But I'm gonna take it a little further, and he said he's an advocate for those lobbyists who benefit from putting guns into teachers' hands. So again, you gotta follow the money trail. Right, and that's why I'm just looking to see what bills he sat and wrote. And so I'm just following. Exactly. Benefiting economically from these bills, because you hit them, you expose them. You have a conversation.
Let me chime in real quick. There's a couple things I want to just share very quickly, and I want to tie everything what we're saying for that point of action. So when I started getting those calls, and this is going to Dr. Riley's point and Dr. Purnell's point in terms of distraction and still having to take care of business, right? I was outside with my daughter. We was playing catch. You know, I'm practicing on her handles with basketball, right? So all these calls were coming in, so I had to stop what I was doing. So as I had to get caught up to speed, because I'm in Gary, all of this is happening in Indianapolis, which is 2.5 hours away. So it's already in the paper in Indianapolis. I'm getting caught up to speed with my staff. You know, I'm not going to react because I get a post. I want to do the research, make sure, okay, I want to prove that this is going on. So as I'm crafting my remarks and I'm taking the calls from the reporters, I stopped and I looked at my daughter and I had that meme in my mind. And I'm like, this is what they see when they think of her. I'm like, now, and this is my blood. This is my child. This is what he thinks and see if he would see her on the street, or if he were to see her in the state house with me, regardless if I'm senator or not. That's what his mentality is, right? So, and I will admit, it took me away because of the other issues that we're dealing with COVID-19. I'm dealing with our prison inmates, our in the workforce there is attracting or contracting this disease, or this virus. I'm dealing with a plethora of the issues, right? And I still have to deal with that. And I still have to figure out how to check this dude. Now, the Black Caucus, I commend my colleagues. When we come together, we send out our recommendations. This will need to happen. But this time, and I've only been elected 4 years, right? I met Dane because I was running for governor. I ran for state senator. I won. I was never elected to any other office. I ran for governor and made a very loud point in the state. So the media has been respecting the voice I'm able to add on issues. So where the Black Caucus was before, when we handle stuff, now we got to move past sending a letter to the governor, sending a letter to the Speaker of the House, and letting them handle it. Now it's like, okay, y'all have to do something, or we want to continue, to Dave's point, apply the pressure to y'all, because y'all the figureheads. Y'all the one that keeps him in leadership. You guys are the ones that's going to continue to add fire to this. And he's just one. This is just one example that I'm sharing with y'all. That I can go on and on about a few others that have made public comments. Right? The situation, Anisha, with the legislation with the firearms training. They explicitly put the NRA in legislation.
Wow.
They explicitly said that, now, in Indiana, and you can look this up, they were doing mock trainings.
Wow.
They were running through the hall, the police, with a pellet gun, shooting teachers. Teachers literally getting hit and bleeding in Indiana. Look it up. And when I brought this up on the Senate floor, my colleagues said that was good for them because it simulated or emulated what it would be like in a true incident in a school. Now I'm on this call with the educators. You don't need someone to come in and play shoot your teachers, do you? Right? I don't see how that's going to justify that. So I'm sharing this just to give you an idea of the thinking of some of these folks. Like they're not dealing. They from a different. I'm using a term that Nip said one time. We're from a different world. I'm from a different world. So takeaways that I'm taking. I like the letter campaign, right? And applying pressure, that's from a public perspective. I love the donor aspect as well, too. So what I'm going to do tomorrow, I'm going to have my staff pull his finance report for the last 6 years. So that's 3 terms. You say go back further?
Go back. I just realized yes, because I mean, 6 years, people, he may not even file taxes within the past 3. I have no idea. But, you always can follow policy by following the dollar and find out who his influences are and whatever those corporations are that donated to his campaign, whether it's over the table or under the table. Those are the corporations that you speak to, both with how they're going to be supportive of your initiatives and what that looks like.
But someone also mentioned that he has a personal business. That personal
awning. The awning. Yeah, I looked that up.
Go back. Go back at least 10 years.
Right, there needs to be pressure put on his personal business. Hit him in his personal pocket. Run that business out of business. He should not be allowed to do business.
Yes, and I'm telling you, how many kids in that particular district were suspended for inappropriate behavior in middle school and high school? How many kids? That's a clear data piece from elementary, and hit them with that data. Because then I know what you said about the letter campaign, because I see the crimson and cream up there. Okay, so I already see there's another layer of advocacy here. So I already see that aspect from my crimson and cream side, and there's a clear social impact that you have to give our children that access, and that's something that Dr. Akbar and some of the things that I've been raised to another level of consciousness of our kids already watching. So giving them the opportunity to participate, right? How many children do you have by November 4th can vote? Do they have access to that for those ballots who are going to be away at college? Let's galvanize that. What is your census rate in your site? What in that district? What does that look like? Because that can also change your representation in certain districts, right? So I think those are some of the things that you can definitely connect with our young people.
Well, in terms also of the legislative floor, you should look to see if you can have him censored, right? And so if you can come together as a legislative body and as a caucus and seek censorship, seek to have him censored on the legislative floor.
So what I was thinking, you guys, and I'm with Dame, I'm about that action. All of that is fine and dandy. We got to let the senator, he got to knock his stuff out. We can create a meme out this clown and make it go viral. It should be on Ball Alert. It should be on everything. And then CNN will pick it up. Like all the stuff that Melton got to do is behind the scenes. We get all that gathering, but I can galvanize my own kids in my school. You know what?
Right.
Let's do an international project. U.S. history. Let's show the world what this guy is doing, how he's making a mockery out of us, and let that go viral. That got more power than all of this. Because once it hit CNN, constituents and everybody going back up, and he mess around and resign. That's how we got to hit him. I get it. Like, we got to do that under the higher than the sport, but social media is a mother. You know what I'm talking about.
On TikTok.
Let's go, bro.
I was going to say the same thing. How did
with Dr. Akbar?
That social media is just like Akbar said. It goes viral. So I think it's a multi-pronged approach. It's not just one way because of the fact that it has to be hit. So I think the collective ideas that we all have, from the aggression, from the straightforwardness, let me say it that way, from the direct hit, and then there's the aftermath that you still have to consider, and then you still have to plug in the gap. So if there's a multi-pronged approach, and you have to think about it all. So once he's gone, is there somebody with the same moral thinking gonna come right in and fill it again? And we did it again. So yes, we went with our straightforward attack may get him out of office, but what will come behind him to fill that office? So we have to make sure that not only do we give a direct hit, like David,
you make it clear
that the person who comes behind him, who fills his spot, don't you dare even think about having the same type of moral output, because we will come for you too.
Exactly.
So that's why it has to be a multi-pronged approach, including the pragmatic steps that we're talking about.
So that's the fifth arm of the task force, the media under the social media. That's the fifth arm.
Because we don't want this to be an isolated incident, but we want to change it for the long haul, because as you heard it already said, after we're gone, our kids are going to have to be able to take up the mantle and continue it, but we want them to be able to do it in a way that will continue forward, to let everybody know, you do this, we coming for you.
But Senator, you also want to remember, sometimes you have to think like your enemy. And you already said that your enemy went through school shooting teachers. Your enemy went through school shooting teachers because that enemy was trying to teach those teachers, you need a gun. In a state where they're gun toters, where they look for guns. But the other thing is, we have to also remember that nobody's raising more money than Trump. Nobody is making more money than Trump. And Trump is using racism. Trump is using every fear. So the thing is, if he knows the people who's voting for him, and if he knows if I keep doing this, they're going to vote for me, and we can go back to slavery days, their economic base still hasn't been hurt. So that's the whole thing. And some of them, they're not even looking for our economic base. They don't even want us. Okay, economically, we would do it a whole lot better through segregation, but that's another issue. But you have to deal with thinking like the enemy. In other words, the enemy might be living in a location, okay, where the students in the old school are cheering them on. We have schools in New Jersey, when they go play basketball, all they have to do is say Trump, 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 and we know they're racist. So the bottom line again is thinking like the enemy. So if he knows this is what his people likes, he's going to get the votes. People not going to stop shopping at his store. If they're racist, more people going to shop at his store. We got to build our own network. That's what we have to do. Build our own network.
I wanted to add that the LGBTQ community, they have laid the foundation. If you want to find any template to follow, it's them. It's almost blasphemous for you to say anything. And until we galvanize ourselves like that, where you don't even want to mention their name, that's how we got to do it. They got the template. I don't know who started it. I guess we can do some research on that. But whatever they've done, they have made it cool not to even mess with them. Don't even look their way. And that's what we have to do. Because right now they think we're a joke. You're going to put a little black boy on there and make a joke out of him. They wouldn't dare mess with that rainbow. They wouldn't dare mess with any of that. And we got to figure out a way to do that.
I respect everything he just said right there and everything everyone else said. That's
what you saying, Dane? You on mute.
Oh, I'm doing. I was just saying that everything he just said was right. I didn't even see it like that. And I'm just overwhelmed with power. We just got to use it. That's all I want to say.
All right. Well, I see the notes in this chat. I appreciate the task force notes in the comments that's been going back and forth too. But what I'll do, I'll keep Dame and Dr. Mckeezy and the bishop informed to move forward. I'm just reading a little bit of this right now.
Hey, Senator, real quick.
Yeah.
The last time I was on the Skype with the principals, they were very honest and they gave me specific notes on how to move forward. The young lady principal that did that is on this Zoom. I would really be curious for her to give you a plan, all of us a plan, how we could focus all our energy and just move as a unit and see what that looks like. I'm just curious to see what it looks like if we all just focus our energy and move as a unit. Let's experiment with that, but just give us a plan. I'm overwhelmed because I'm usually the smartest guy in the room, and everyone in here is the smartest guy and woman in the room. And the power that comes with that, the perspective, like I'm seeing things from different perspectives. But at the end of the day, my release is action, or I internalize and it turns into cancer. I gotta do something, or else I'm gonna feel away. Something has to come of this conversation. And I just wanna swing hard based on what came out of this conversation. I just wanna see some action. I love talking, but I love doing. This is too many smart people in the room. Too many people that are about action. Too many generals that represent armies. Too many influencers that are cooler than I thought. I just want to see us do something. It sounds good, but I want it to look good when we do it. How do we do it? But again, there are people on this Zoom that know how to put together a plan. Put it together. and we will do it.
Yes. Put it together, Anisha. So I think we have an overall beginning with some of the things that we discussed regarding the task force. We're not bound necessarily to these particular titles, but it sounds like I'm hearing you, Mr. Dash in, remember we said that, is that you about social action. So that's your committee are functioning or living within each of these committees. Please understand that coming in through a committee, if it's part of the the mental health committee, that's still a form of social action, because trust me, I'm pretty certain you know how to get your point across psychologically and do that through social action. I'm pretty sure that as we do the letter writing campaign, that in itself is social action. I'm pretty certain as we're looking up 10 years worth of personal and professional tax records, they're going to be something that somebody paid off somewhere. That too is social action. Policy and law, Senator Melton, I know you got that down packed, especially, since 1911, that was one of the first types of community service events that the organization to which you're also a member performed since 1911, social action. And then, of course, my bro, he's like, look, I can get somebody here right now, social media, boom, bam, and trust me.
Yes.
Dr. Riley, she ain't playing these games.
I want to add one thing before we go, and this is my last. I want to
Real talk.
One thing. First of all, Akbar, you're dead right. We have to draw coalitions with all those other groups that know how to deal with being oppressed and know how to smack it back. Like you said, the LGBT community, the ACLU, all those other different community organizations that know how to deal with this kind of thing. And secondly, we need a hook. I make records. I make music. We need a hook. Dame, you the hook. We need not only the senator, but we need a loud voice that's going to carry that flag.
And a hashtag.
That's right.
Yeah, we need a hashtag to give to Akbar and his kids.
Yes, and considering that your organization was chartered in 1911 in Indiana.
Yes, in Indiana. That's what made me look at the crimson. That's what made me look at the cane.
Right. So, as far as, just even reaching out to your notable members, everything that is concerning, there's somebody that you're connected to in every level of business within the themes of the task force that I've discussed. And I would say perhaps that is one of the beginning points, but you know how to delegate, because Dame is like, I want to do something tonight, write it up tonight, send it up tonight. What is said, I'm ready. I'm hitting them now. I want to fight. Yes, we're going to do it. We're going to do it smart. And it's 11:05 East Coast time. So I can't guarantee that we can necessarily come up with that construct like that, because this has to be intentional, purposeful, as far as followed by $1, of course, because that's how you're going to hit everybody. And then we have to also, I would say for me, I'm somebody that definitely needs to reflect, because through that reflection, I get 100 more ideas. Sometimes at 3 in the morning, sometimes at 3 in the afternoon.
Okay, so I see some hashtags. No more?
Mm-hmm.
Did somebody do that already? You always have to make sure that there's no copyright infringement. Dang, you got people that can look up copyright infringement? Dang.
Do I?
See, here we go, boo. Here we go. Come on now. It's only 8 o'clock over there.
I don't know. I was just letting him talk. If I have to, I will, but I don't specifically have someone that's a specialist in it.
I'm sure that you're gonna find somebody that may have something with copyright infringement.
I got it. Don't worry about it.
You got.
There's no copyright infringement on Instagram. We ain't trying to profit.
We rise. I like that, Dr. Riley. That reminds me, however, of
all of them count. Just go ahead. Just go hard. Mm-hmm. Put them all out. The more they know that there's accountability, the more they know there's support, the more they know that if they say something, someone else is going to say something about it. They're going to be a little more respectful about the way they move. It's just about the brazenness.
It's the same principle around a domestic violence individual. When you have a person, we're talking about a woman in that situation, when the accuser knows that they have backing, when they have a protector, they're less likely to inflict pain, right? So when there's accountability put into place, and so wherever it is, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's a bully, whether it's any type of person who wants to create pain, when they know that there's an accountability piece, they think twice. And so this needs to be put into place. The same thing like Akbar was saying. You know, there's an accountability piece put into place when it comes to the LGBT community. You know, if you say something, you are putting yourself in that position to have people come after you hard. So if you do it with your eyes wide open, right? Oh. The same thing with other particular communities who have galvanized their strength together. You know, if you speak out against them, people are coming after you, so you are putting yourself in that position. So this is the same type of action and principle and steps that need to be taken. So that's what happened around the Black Lives Matter movement. It was like, now everyone's coming, but then we got to keep it moving. We got to keep the momentum going, so that way it is understood that no more. Mm-hmm. Enough is enough.
I like that educators against racism.
So true.
That could be interchangeable right there. You could be mothers against racism. It could be fathers against racism.
And the acronym could be EAR, E-A-R. Are you listening? Give me your ear. Are you listening?
To the studio.
Educators against racism, EAR. Are you listening? You got your ear? Give me your ear. You listening? You hear us? You gonna hear us?
Yes.
I like that.
Eyes and ears. I like that.
So you're sending to close it out, bro. It's on you.
Man, they got me tied up in this chat. I'm looking these ideas.
Where's your daughter? How old is your daughter?
I have two. I have one that's 18. I have one that's 13.
So what's the TikTok song right now that they're doing? Because we just need to go viral.
And if you don't know, go get them.
Go get them right now, because we hot right now. I'm in the booth. I'm in the booth. I'm in the booth now.
Pull the mic
Hey, ho.
Let's go.
Yeah, we're in.
I'm hot.
I'm hot.
1, 2.
Yo. Who?
Let me just say this though. I appreciate everybody's time. This was everybody's comments were intentional as well.
I like that word, intentional.
I mean, but it helped me to think things through in a different way and approach this because it's just like everybody on the line now. It's a lot going on, and this right here threw us off for a huge left here in the state. It's not something we can't address. It's just something I didn't want to gloss over. I didn't want to just send out a press release. I just want to send out something and was like, all right, we move on to the next day. So that's why I hit Dame up. I'm glad he called the bishop. And we were able to pull this group together. Thank you, Doc, for pulling us together again, man. And what I'd love to do is I'll be on the lookout if we get those strategy notes that Dane was talking about. Who is it from Anisha?
Yeah, from Jacko.
From Jacko. I've already sent her my email, so.
I know, I already started emailing you already, so I started that already. That's what we do.
No, it's all good, but I appreciate everyone. I know it's late, and I'd love to keep you all in the loop. Keep folks informed on what's going on here. If there's things in your area that we can learn from, I'd love to keep in touch with you. So, Dave, I appreciate you, brother, for organizing this once again.
What's your chapter's focus?
But you know what, Senator? Like we told you, man, you got a family over here on the East Coast, man. You got New York and New Jersey in the house, and you know you got a undivided support. You know what I'm saying? So anything you need, just holler at us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Well, I'm gonna chime off, everybody.
I'll send the notes to you now.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks again. Have a blessed evening.
You got it.
To us, Anisha, thank you.
Power to the people.
Oh, listen, check my business, honey. Dame, thank you. Hold up, fist bump, ladies. Ow, ow, ow. That's what we.
I'm looking forward to the plan. I can't wait to see the plan.
Fist bump, everybody. Fist bump. All right. What happened, boo? All right.
What you doing over?
I inboxed you on your IG because you was like, oh, so let me.
I was like, I'm about to action with Dame. Let's go. That's all.
I fucked with that.
Oh, Anisha, you the host now. You the host now. That means Dennis is about to sign off. You the host. That's the response.
Good, so good.
Good night, ladies. Raw. Good night.
I see y'all there.
It's about that action. Every day we trying to make some kind of impact. You know, I'm doing my thing for me, but I'm gonna make sure that everything else that I do is for we. And having a bunch of intelligent people in a room, you could only learn from that. And if you don't, you know, I guess you're not built like that. But if you see me, this is what I'm doing. I'm putting really smart people together, focusing energy on love. And instead of like complaining about shit, we want to fix things in a very tasteful, respectful way where no one has to get hurt. You know? But thank you. Holla. Dame Dash Studios. You will see this over and over again at Dame Dash Studios.
If you want another amazing video with the one and only Dame Dash, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.